And then I traveled to
Iraq.
went to Iraq. And I thought, I'm King Kong. I have already a big experience in conflict. So Iraq was the place I realized that I know nothing. Scary. And there was a burning U.S. Army Humvee, and on top of that Humvee, there was a guy holding a sharp metal bar, chanting slogans. I approached that Humvee with my camera. I went down, I took the first picture, the second picture, and as I'm up to take the third picture, that man jumped with the sword, this metal bar behind me. I thought he's gonna kill me. And this is where a pro-government protester, president supporter who came with a dagger tried to stab me, and luckily the dagger flipped in the middle. I just got the small, it did not go deeper. And there was...
Where were you stabbed?
In my chest.
In your chest? Wow.
Yeah. 6 months after, I'm walking in this camp. One of these women lifted up her burqa. She told me salam, and she put back her burqa. And that was for me the real recognition, trust. And I asked her, what's going on? She said, my child has temperature. I said, take her to a hospital. She said, I cannot leave work. I said, the child might die. She said, I cannot leave work. And this is where I had to think and break the rule.
Yeah.
After spending 15 years in the AP and traveling the world, I decided completely to commit myself to helping the people that are following. Physical scars heal. When you're injured, it heals after a while, but mental scars could take forever to heal. And most of these children were scarred, traumatized from wars and conflict, and you could not see that easily. And their eyes used to reflect that. So for me, it was very important to bring that trauma through their eyes into the world through a face.
Zdravo svima, dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu Agelast podcasta. Kao i svaki put na početku, hvala puno svima vama koji ste podržali našu stranicu tako što ste zapratili. Zapratite našu stranicu, pomozite našem kanalu da raste i hvala vam puno na tome. Također, hvala puno svima vama koji nas podržavate mesečnim donacijama na sajtu koji se zove Patreon. Kao što znate, Patreon podržava kreatore sadržaja i nadamo se da ćete i vi biti među njima. Čekirajte šta sve tu ima u ponudi na linku koji se nalazi u opisu ove ili bilo koje druge epizode. Možda vam je lakše, jednostavnije ili bilo šta drugo od svega toga da nas podržite nekom jednokratnom donacijom poput kriptovaluta ili možda PayPala. Linkovi su u opisu ove ili bilo koje druge epizode, kao što smo već napomenuli. Naravno, ovo sve ništa ne bi bilo moguće bez naših dragih partnera. Kao što znate, Volt, koji je praktično sa nama, evo još malo, neverovatna stvar, ali približavamo se 7. rođendanu, još malo pa su 7 godina tu sa nama, ko bi rekao da stvari ovoliko dugo traju. I bez njih apsolutno ovo sve ne bi bilo moguće, tako da hvala puno našim partnerima iz Volta, a za sve vas, ukoliko nemate profil na Voltu, napravite profil na Voltu, iskoriste promo kod sa imenom našeg podcasta i osvojite 4 puta 250 dinara popusta na prve 4 porudžbine. Dakle, 4 puta 250 dinara popusta na prve 4 porudžbine uz promo kod Agelast na Voltu. A naravno želimo da pozdravimo i naše nove partnere u video podcastu, ali koji su sa nama godinama tu na audio platformama kao prvi sponzori audio formata, a u pitanju su A1 Srbija. Osvrnut ćemo se njihovu platformu koja nosi naziv Bolji online, koja okuplja zajednicu posvećenu tome da internet postane bezbedan i prostor podrške. Kroz praktična znanja o prednostima, ali i upozorenje na rizike digitalnog sveta, Bolji online nas oprema znanjima, veštinom za odgovorno korišćenje tehnologije kako bismo se osjećali sigurno, komunicirali bez prepreka i gradili prave veze, što je nešto što bi tehnologija i trebalo da radi. Sve edukativne materijale i dalje možete pronaći na sajtu boljionline.rs u opisu ove ili bilo koje druge epizode. I naravno pomenemo naše partnere iz Mazde. Sve što Mazda stvara je dizajnirano oko čoveka, tako da je svaki automobil napravljen za stvarne ljude u stvarnom svetu. Mazda svoje automobile stvara sa čovekom u središtu, umjesto da prisiljava ljude da se prilagode vozilu. Na taj način se stvara jednostavna i besprekorna veza sa automobilom. Mazda koristi napredne tehnike za proučavanje načina kretanja i reakcije ljudi tokom vožnje i povezuje inženjere i dizajnere kako bi u središtu bio čovek. Zato se tokom vožnje sve čini prirodno i bez stresa, a automobil se kreće s vama na prirodan način i to je nešto što ste definitivno osjetili ukoliko ste ikada malo ozbiljnije vozili Mazdin automobil. Čekajte šta Mazda sve ima u ponudi na sajtu koji se nalazi u opisu ove ili bilo koje druge epizode. I sada je došao trenutak da najavimo našeg gosta za ovu nedeljnu epizodu i moram da kažem da ove nedelje zaista imamo priliku da ugostimo ekskluzivno vrlo značajnu osobu, a u pitanju je čovjek koji se zove Muhammed Muheisen. Muhammed Muheisen je zapravo fotograf, i to ne bilo koji fotograf i ne bilo kakav fotograf, on je zvanično fotograf nacionalne geografije. Pre toga je bio fotograf Associated Pressa i to je bio vrlo visoko pozicioniran tamo i dobitnik je 2 Pulicerove nagrade za fotografiju. Njegova životna priča je ništa manje uzbudljiva jer je rođen u Jerusalimu, rođen je i odrastao u konfliktnoj zoni i bio je ratni i konfliktni, bio je ratni fotograf dugi niz godina, ali se u posljednjih 15 godina fokusirao na fotografisanje izbeglica i života izbeglica, i to je nešto što ga je obeležilo definitivno u posljednjih 15 godina, i priče koje on doneo su priče koje su pomogle pre svega da izbeglice dobiju imena, dobiju ljudsku dimenziju, dobiju svoje živote i priče, da donese živote i priče njih svima nama i da radi zapravo na kreiranju tih mostova poverenja, na tim mostovima deljenja solidarnosti i neke ideje o globalnom miru. Danas možda važnije nego ikada pre, s obzirom na to da broj konflikata raste sve više, broj izbeglica u svetu raste sve više, a u to ubrajamo sada i klimatske izbeglice između ostalog. Tako da naš novi gost ima puno toga da vam kaže o svom životu, o svojoj karijeri i o trenutnom stanju u svetu danas. Dakle, naš novi gost Muhammed Muheisen, uživajte. Muhammed, welcome.
Thank you, Galeb.
It's a pleasure and honor to have you here. And you've been here for a couple of days now.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about these last couple of days, what you've been doing here?
Yeah, it's like going back in time, but in a completely different period. I arrived a few days ago for the opening of my photo exhibition in Belgrade, Moments in Time, and it has been really overwhelming.
Yeah, I want to thank, before the conversation starts, I want to thank International Organization for Migration who organized this interview, Nevena Brajević from the organization who made this possible, and we've been at your exhibition opening 2 days ago. It was fantastic, and then you had a presentation of your work later on. But you said it's a different experience now because you've been here before.
It's interesting. I don't know if people might misunderstand me. Yeah. It felt brighter. Mm-hmm. I arrived to this city in early 2017, January 2017. It was a very, very tough story and also tough weather. It was very dark, and I went to work on a story here. This story was very difficult and very confusing to accept in that time, where you had hundreds of unaccompanied refugee minors just stranded and living in harsh conditions in the 21st century. It was a very difficult story to document and also to explain to the world why these children are alone. Why would these children walk from Afghanistan or from Pakistan to Europe? Why? Where are their family? Why these kids? So this story was very important, very personal, and that period was, as I mentioned, freezing cold. The circumstances were harsh. Coming 10 years after the moment I flew over, we arrived to Belgrade. I saw Belgrade in a different way. It's like, are we over Belgrade? Because I saw all these buildings. Yeah. So a lot of changes, and my memories back in the day, it was all these green trees as you approach the city, empty around the river. Yeah. And suddenly, for me, it looked like there is a ray of light. There is kind of a hope. Mm-hmm. And the moment we landed and we arrived to the city and we started walking, I felt kind of home again 10 years after.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but early January and late May are two very different seasons in Belgrade. You know, so Eastern Europe when all the greenery just go away during the winter time, and then this concrete brutalist architecture just starts popping out, and it's all gray. It's all gray, gray sky, gray architecture, and gray streets. It has a different feeling than when everything is green and sun and shining. You know, it's a completely different vibe. But tell me more about the story in 2017.
So I have been for more than 15 years specialized in documenting refugee crisis and migration around the world. And in 2015, you had millions of people making their ways from conflict zone into Europe. So that was part of my long-term project. In 15, started in Greece, and I continued and continued. So in 17, Europe shut down its border, closed it. So most of the people who were in Serbia got stranded, got stuck. And as I mentioned earlier, it was freezing, it was cold. I wanted to come and see these conditions in my eyes. Behind Belgrade central stations, there was a number of unaccompanied refugee minors taking refuge in abandoned warehouses.
When you say minors, how old were they?
I saw 8 years old, I saw 9, I saw 12, I met 15, I met up to 16.
Traveling alone? From where?
All the way from Afghanistan, from Pakistan.
It's thousands of kilometers.
It's just unbelievable. And then for me to be able to understand more, I had to spend a lot of times around these children in the warehouses here, just to be able to gain their trust and understand why. And what was shocking for me, that most of these kids were saying, if we stay, we die. If we come here, we have a chance to survive and grow up and have a life. And that's something I needed to explain to the world. I needed to tell them that nobody leaves their home unless they are forced to leave their home. And these are kids who became adults because of the experience. Many of them had life and death experience just to reach the doorsteps of Europe, just to be here. And then they were faced with this very harsh condition that not a single human can accept or can survive in this. It was cold, Galib. It was over minus 20 degrees. And you know how it gets cold in this region. And most of these people come from hot climates, And I saw them showering in freezing water outdoor. The snow is all over the place, sleeping on the ground, gathering around fires, but the toxic of the smoke of these fires could kill you. So that was very, very unbelievable situation or condition that you cannot imagine, and nothing like a picture can tell that. So for me, it was important to document that story, to raise their voice and explain to the world, like, it's not just number, you have millions of refugees. No. There were kids who had name. I remember a very particular story that shocked me. It's a young boy. His name was Saddam. He's 12 years old. I met him in the border between Serbia and Croatia. And I told him, when was the last time you spoke to your mom? He said, I didn't speak to her for a long, long time. I said, here is a phone call. He said, I lost the phone number. I don't know how to call my family. And that was for me kind of shocking. Like, this kid, his family doesn't know what's happened to him, and he cannot tell his family where he is or if he's alive. That was one story. Another story was of two hearing impaired boys. One was 14, one was 15. They're completely disconnected from the world. They cannot hear. And they were trying to cross the border from Serbia to Croatia, and they were shot at because they could not hear the border police telling them to turn back. So these were like the stories.
How old were they?
One 14 and one 16.
Mm-hmm. Where are they from?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, okay.
So you can imagine the frustration for you as a human being and as a visual storyteller, that you want to share these stories. You want to tell the world, like, this is what's happening. And this is why these kids left, because literally most of them were answering me, I stay, I die. I have a chance to survive and grow up. I spent most of that year in Serbia. I spent several months in the warehouses because after these warehouses and abandoned train carriages were destroyed and most of these kids were taken to camps. And I was happy to visit these camps and see how they transformed. Immediately you see a bit of colors in their faces because they were taken into a better circumstances than the one they were in. The story was published in the magazine. I had a lot of reactions from people around the world about it. People started to understand more about that it's not our problem. So it's not our business. Then people started to understand today it's them, tomorrow might be us. And that's why I document these stories, just to remind people.
It was a very peculiar time, especially for those refugees, because they traveled, now we know it's usual routes where they travel throughout history. It's always the same routes. But you know, yesterday it was us. You say today is them, tomorrow may be us. But for us, yesterday it was us, because not so long ago we were refugees during the Yugoslavian war. So with that experience, we were one of the few countries that actually treated refugees differently throughout this crisis, because we've seen the practices on the pushback practices on the borders. We've seen the way. Now, as we call them, Fortress Europe, you know, behaved during the time. But which places throughout this route you followed with these kids?
So
you've been only in Serbia, you've been in other countries too.
So for me, there is no better way to tell a story than being a part of it. Actually, my journey started from the Greek island of Lesbos.
Okay.
I landed there, and I wanted to live that experience to be able to document it. So I walked with families from Greece all over to Germany, for example.
Okay.
All the way the journey to be able to live it. I could not live it exactly as they do, as sometimes I had to go through the official border while they go through different channels. But this is how my first interaction came to Serbia a couple of years after, because the routes kept changing, you see. And that was in the middle, 2 years after, when Europe said everybody's welcome, and then everybody started coming to Europe. And then suddenly, out of the blue, Europe says, you're not welcome. So the borders were shut. And these groups of young refugees got stuck here. And what's going to happen? These people, there was no parents. So somebody had to take responsibility for them. They needed guardians to take care of them and put them in safe, because during such crisis a lot of horrible things happens. You know, people goes missing, people, you know, die in the way, people, you can imagine what happens. So it's kind of a responsibility was for me to continue. You know, the sad things about nowadays, like a massive story happens, everybody jumps in to document it, and then another story happens somewhere else, so everybody leaves, and the story remains. So this is where I come. When everybody leaves, I come to keep the story going, to keep shedding light, and to keep reminding the people that this is still happening. It needs our attention. It needs our help and support and recognition that there is an issue that needs to be discussed and need to be solved.
Okay, so do you know what happened to those boys?
Yes, I know, for example, the two young hearing impaired ended in Switzerland.
Okay.
Technology is an incredible thing.
They're hearing now? They can hear now?
I was approached by them on Facebook that we made it to Switzerland and they're in safe hands. Layakat, one of the boys that I spent time around documenting his experience here, he also ended in France.
Nice.
And it's amazing how these kids managed after years to locate me through social media, which was another powerful tool for them to move and communicate.
What happened with this boy, Saddam?
I never managed to connect with. This boy was deeply traumatized. He was a lone wolf.
How old was he?
He was 12. He was actually taking shelter in the jungle alone between all these trees. I remember seeing his a small tent, sleeping bag. He was just wanted to leave no matter what it takes. And back then, the borders were really tight, and people were trying a lot of time to cross. Many get turned back badly.
Yeah, they call it game. Yeah,
exactly, the game.
Yeah,
I remember that term.
Yeah. So let's wind this story way back at the beginning, sort of, to find out who Muhammed is and how your story started. Because in a way, you've been telling this in many interviews. You were born in conflict.
That's correct.
So conflict was kind of your habitus. You knew how to handle the conflict. So tell us more about your upbringing.
So I was 9 years old.
You were born in Jerusalem.
I was born, I'm a Jordanian national who was born and raised in Jerusalem. Back in the late 80s, when you're a kid, everything is about the news. Everything is about the news. It's what's happening here, what's happening there. I remember in the late 80s, I was 8 and a half, 9. It was the Lebanese Civil War. It was the Iranian-Iraqi war, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And you grow up on all this information about the news. And I grew up, I'm the last. Ahead of me, a brother and 3 sisters. So I was the youngest.
Okay.
And we used to have weekly picnics with my grandma where we go and sit and enjoy in nature. My grandmother had a Polaroid camera.
Mm-hmm. How old were you?
I was 9.
9 years old.
And I remember meeting this Polaroid camera. I called it the magical box because it had a button. You press it, the paper comes out, and that paper has that moment, and I was like, wow. And you carry this paper and keep it to remind you of that moment. I fell in love with photography, but I didn't understand yet what photography. Yeah. It was for me the toy that I play with, and that opened my eyes. I wanted to do photography, but what photography? I wanted to do a colorful photography. I used to stare at trees. I used to stare at the street lights, especially when it rains and I see these drops coming down. I really opened my eyes to a different thing. I shut my ears from the news and I started to see the beauty surrounding me.
Yeah, it was also, it seems like some form of escapism from the reality also at the same time.
It is, but I realized that years and years after.
Yeah.
It was my therapy. So photography
Nice, yeah.
kind of saved me. Mm-hmm. It found me, I didn't find it, and then we became best friends, me and photography, and this camera became my part of me, you see. Being born in such conflict, you're surrounded by the news. So I could not end doing what I love to do. I end covering conflicts, you see.
When did you, first of all, one comment. I really like this perception of camera, like moment in time captured now to last forever.
We write
physical
history. Yeah. Everywhere I go, I see pictures. So pictures is the thing that lives with us the rest of our life. You go back in time and in the future you find it. And I understood that when I was 9 years. Like this is something, it brings the past into the present, into the future. And then I found myself surrounded by the news, you see. And for many people, Muhammad, you're lucky. The news is close to you. You don't have to travel from the end of the earth. So it's an interesting way.
You're living in hot
it.
zones, yeah.
And in 2001, I was approached by the Associated Press.
But how did they approach you? So I'm guessing it's a long story from Polaroid camera to Associated Press approaching you. What happened in the meantime?
What happened in the middle that I always believed it's important. Education is very important. I was in college studying journalism and political science.
Where?
In Berzet.
Okay.
And the thing is, I didn't study photography. But I entered this particular subject because there was a photography course, so I could borrow these cameras.
So you've been photographer prior to that. You've been like frequently photographing.
I was taking every opportunity where there is a camera.
What was your first
pictures.
Camera?
As I told you, I had a Polaroid, and then I had a Kodak, and then I had an ancient Nikon camera.
Okay, yeah.
you see. And then I was surrounded by incredible collections of camera from that course of photography. I entered that course just to borrow this camera, and this is where a new rumor went in town that there is a new kid who's talented. And I was approached by the AP, exactly it was in 2001. They needed a contributor, just somebody they can have as a backup plan if something happens.
Yeah, backup plan for like daily news.
And that's never me. When I put one finger in, I go all in after, I remember. And then in no time, I was hired completely as a staffer for the Associated Press.
So what were your first deployments?
I was covering the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Exactly a year and a half after, I was one of the first people to travel to Baghdad, to Iraq, to cover the US-led war.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. So during this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it was your first time inside of a conflict.
I was surrounded by the conflict, but then suddenly I'm shielded behind my camera to document that conflict. So
what was that feeling like? Like, unpack this for me.
Look, it was like, it's very strange feeling that now I'm not part of the news, I'm covering the news. You see, so you see the news from a different perspective. Being a photojournalist, you stand in the middle. You show the right, you show the left. And there was things happening everywhere. And I was taking pictures. And these pictures started making it in the international newspapers.
Yeah, but I'm more interested in you before international papers. Like, how old were you in 2001?
I was 20, almost 20.
Almost 19, 20 years old. So you were basically a kid.
I was, you know, when you grew up in such regions, you're never a kid.
Yeah.
You're a grown-up child. I don't know how to explain it to you, but you are already, your life started way early.
Yeah,
you
had
understand.
a stolen childhood.
You understand, and that rips something from you. That your childhood is completely different than anybody who's born in a safer environment, who's born in a normal environment. I want to say. So you already understand what's going on. You already are part of it.
Yeah. So have you had any mentors, like keeping you safe? Somebody showing you around?
After of course, after that, when at the beginning. You know, it was fun for me. It was interesting.
But I want to understand, like, what was like the first day like? So they call you, they tell you, hey, Muhammad.
No, I had a meeting. Hi, Muhammad, 1, 2, 3, would like to sit down if you like to be one of our stringers. That was the term.
Yeah, stringers,
contribute to this. I said, why not? Literally, would love to. I understood how it works. It's my environment, something happening in the outskirts of Jerusalem, and suddenly it became the first intifada, the second intifada. Not 87, 2002, and I was in the middle of it. There was a lot of things happening. I have my camera. Wherever I turn, there is something happening, and my picture.
So were you alone, or you were with a team?
We always worked as groups. There are other photographers, but it's limited than today. The number was completely different.
Yeah.
But
how many of you were there?
I remember we were like 7 photographers working back then.
So where was your base?
Jerusalem. I was based in Jerusalem. And I was traveling all over the country, going to Jerusalem, going to the West Bank, going to Haifa, everywhere. Whatever is happening, I travel and I cover and I document, and it goes on AP Wire, and of course travel all over the world. I kind of made my place.
So how quickly did the AP and the international community start recognizing your photos?
I mean, it was immediately. There is a big demand from the.
What was like the most memorable photo? One of the first most memorable photos for you? Moments.
When I go back to that period, there was an Israeli army incursion in the West Bank city of Ramallah. I remember, and there was tanks everywhere. It was a bit scary period because you're not equipped. You know, you put your flak jacket, you're around. But sometimes you're lucky to survive these stuff because you don't understand the danger till after. You see,
it's like a postponed feeling.
And then after that, I had to do a hostile environment training, of course, because I had to travel to Iraq. I would have appreciated having that hostile environment.
Tell us more about that hostile environment training. So basically, AP and the international community recognize your photos, so they wanted to bring you to Iraq conflict.
I'm now part of the AP network. Okay. I'm a full-time AP photographer. So to be able to travel for the insurance purposes and for your safety purposes, you have to do this hostile environment training. I had to travel to London, spend a couple of weeks, get trained for safety, first aid, mines, kidnapping, all of that. And then you can travel to
What was that experience like? What did you learn? Has any of those experience taught you something useful?
It was very important. I'll be honest with you, because it's an instinct. You know, you do most of these stuff out of instinct, but then you learn how to react if you get kidnapped, if somebody, first aid. We all learn as kids first aid, but then you're here, if it's in the field, a colleague happens, or even to yourself, you can help yourself and help others. It was very useful, to be honest with you. But the moment you're in the field, you kind of forget everything. Let's be honest.
This whole training just go out the window.
And then I traveled I went to Iraq, and I thought, I'm King Kong. I have already a big experience in conflict. So Iraq was the place I realized that I know nothing. Scary.
Why? What was so different?
Look, I was young, inexperienced, and terrified.
Yeah, but you also been in the conflict before.
I thought I know it all. However, when I was in Iraq, I realized I know nothing. It was wild. I understand the language.
So you speak both like English and Arabic?
I understand both sides.
Yeah.
I had to work in the Iraqi sides, and a lot of times I had to be embedded with the U.S. Army. I saw a lot of injustice happening, and you could not interfere as an individual, a human being. I'm there to document what's going on. There were a lot of close moments where you could get killed.
Like?
You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Explosion happens. Attack happens. You're with the U.S. Army, and then suddenly an IED goes off with that convoy. There were a lot of close moments that you are not equipped to face or handle. And it's scary. But every day is a new day. Every day is a new day. You need to keep feeding the machine. Document endless news. And then out of the blue, one of my picture wins a Pulitzer Prize that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, but tell us the story of that Pulitzer Prize picture, because it has a follow-up though. Yeah.
That story, I can tell you, is the bittersweet of my life, and you can dig all over the internet. You will not find a lot about it, because I never like to speak about it, but it's a very important station in my life. It was April 2004. In April 2004, I woke up in my hotel room on the radio shouting, "Mr. Muheisen, wake up." It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I overslept. And my driver told me there was a massive explosion that I missed. So I woke up in the news that something big happened and I missed it. I was frustrated. I jumped down, I got my clothes, and I went to the site of that explosion to take pictures. There was nothing to do. And as we drove off the site, suddenly a big explosion, boom.
Another explosion.
And it's not so far, and it's a black smoke. Black smoke is a bad sign.
Yeah, never a good sign. Yeah.
We drove toward that direction, and as we drive, people run away. That's the irony of what we do. We go to where everybody runs off. We park the car. I hid my cameras under my armpit. It was dangerous back then just to carry your camera and walk around. You could be killed, kidnapped, attacked out of the blue, under that you're being a spy or something, etc. And this is when I approached a scene. There was a burning U.S. Army Humvee, and on top of that Humvee, there was a guy holding a sharp metal bar, chanting slogans. I approached that Humvee with my camera. I went down, I took the first picture, the second picture, and as I'm up to take the third picture, that man jumped with the sword, this metal bar behind me. I thought he's gonna kill me. I started running. I was scared. You know, we have a saying in Arabic, 2/3 of being a man is to run when you can.
How do you say it in Arabic?
تلتين للرجول الهروب. You know, to run away. So I fled, really scared. I got into the car. We drove back to the office. I remember putting this picture on my computers, on my desktop for over an hour. Don't know what to do with it. I don't know what was it. Was I traumatized? Was I scared? I didn't know what to do with it. And this is when my best friend and colleague, Anya Niederinghaus, who was killed years after, she passed me by and she put her hands on my shoulder and says, Muhammad, when did you take this picture? I said, a few hours ago. She said, today? I told her, yes. You know, I missed the whole news. Everybody covered the first explosion. I'm like, I came to the party after it ended. I told her today I took this picture. She's like, did you file it to the wire? What does it mean to file it to the wire is to put the picture, write the caption, and put it on the AP system for clients to receive it. I said, not yet. So I filed this picture. Seconds after, I got a message, Muhammad, do you have a vertical of that moment? Because sometimes the paper is like horizontal. Luckily, I have a second picture.
You took a bunch of pictures, yeah.
I filed this picture. Next day, it was published everywhere, this picture. It was the main news. A year after, I got dozens of emails and phone calls. Congratulations, you have won your first Pulitzer Prize. That picture for me could have cost me my life, and that picture has an ethical issue. I never seek permission. I never seek permission, and I wonder what would have happened if I approached the guy and I said, do you mind that I took your picture? I asked my superiors. The answer was always clear. Muhammad, when you're in a conflict zone, you're there to stand and cover everything. But that moment never left from me, and after that, I worked hard to always approach people and seek their permission.
To get consent to release form, just like we had before, prior to filming. Yeah.
But that you learn the hard way, and that nobody teach you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's different. There is a lot of awareness online and here and there. Back in the day, I was kind of a lone wolf, you know, and that picture taught me a lot. It won me my first Pulitzer Prize for the industry. The expectation became so high. You're no longer just that young photographer. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner, so everybody expects you to be now a master. And I'm just young and passionate. I just wanted to do what I love to do. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to share with the world what's the story of that child, what's the story of that woman. I never planned this or expected this, but I kept my head, between my shoulder, and I continued after.
Yeah, the question now is, I have two questions. First one is, how does it feel and how surreal does it feel, once receiving the award, and being at the ceremony and seeing this? It's such stark contrast to where were you taking the picture, like those two realities, living both of those realities at the same time.
That what made me who I am today is that contrast, that inner conflict, that moral compass, that I took that picture of that situation, and then I ended getting that award, not the people in the picture, and then you travel to another part of the world that you cannot even share with them all these stories. I always felt lost in between worlds. Mm-hmm. I had two lives, but there was something in the middle where when I go back to my room, I lock the door and you cry. You go through all the people, all the painful scenes that you have seen, and you could not do anything. You just capture it in your camera and you share it with the world without even knowing that it could help or it could not help. There was...
the second question is, we just spoke at the balcony. You met one friend of ours who was a guest here a few years back, also a photographer, Goran Tomašević.
Goran. that's one of the beauty of what I do. You meet incredible people along the way, real people. I met Goran for the first time in 2002. I was still very young. Goran is one of the tallest photographers that I've seen. I always envied him because I remember whenever there was something big happening, Goran standing tall, with his camera, getting that picture. And I say, I wish I could climb on his back, literally. But you admire such photographers because they were driven. You see the history that they wrote through their photography. Goran been everywhere, and recently I judged with him a competition, Istanbul Photo Awards, and it's a reminder of the importance of what we do as photojournalists, and a reminder of the great people behind these pictures. Because when our pictures are printed, it's you have a photo credit, but there is a person who captured that picture who has a story, and there is the story of the picture that you captured, and when you combine these together, it tells a lot. Passionate, honest, true photographers like Goran and many other colleagues, like Anya Niederhaus, my friend who got killed in Afghanistan. Like, these people made me also the person who I am, because I learned a lot from these people. I learned silently from them. I'm an observer and a silent learner. Whenever I sit somewhere, I do my best to learn everything wherever I go.
How long you stayed in Iraq?
I spent over the term a year and something. I went a few times in and out. Back then, when you go to a conflict zone, you couldn't wait to leave. And the moment you leave, you couldn't wait to come back. It's like part of you remains there. You did not complete what you came originally to that place for. It's a very, very conflicting feeling. And some people say it's an adrenaline. I don't say it's an adrenaline. You get attached to the people, and you always feel you never gave justice or you did enough. And Iraq was one of the first stations that I've been to after covering the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In 2014, I lost my best friend, as I mentioned, and I went in a very dark passage. 6 months, I could not carry my camera. I could not see the light. I went in a very, very, very dark state of mind. And what came out in that period? Iraq part. Exactly 11 years earlier. So you realize the toll it takes when you are in a conflict zone. Doesn't come up immediately. It comes years and years after. And I realized Iraq has been quite a traumatizing period for me, but I never realized that. Because I was young, I was on fire, and I was just kind of beginning my professional career. But years after it came out.
You were too hungry to look over your shoulder, so you were just going straight forward, not looking back at all.
Thank you. Exactly. You just go forward. You don't want to stuck.
Yeah. You don't want to get stuck in anything. You're just grabbing on. So what happened after Iraq? So you went where? What was that? It was not Pakistan.
So you start naming it. After Iraq, whatever happened in the world, I started jumping in. Assignments, peace treaties.
Because now you're a Pulitzer Prize winner.
I got
So you now became part of the machine.
I became kind of the joker that I get to travel wherever I want. I get to go wherever I want. I have a budget. So I kept traveling, but look, I'm still learning. I'm still finding my way. I never seen myself as a Pulitzer Prize. Let me be honest with you. You get that award, it's either you blow your head and it ends your career, it either motivates you to get better. So I started jumping from place to another. There is a peace summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. You go to cover it. There is an event in Saudi Arabia. You go there. I cross to cover refugees, crisis, people crossing from Iraq to Jordan, in here, in there. And once back to cover some major events with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the funeral of the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. That was one of the major events, So I kept
Just going from place to place.
I became one of the photographers who jumps to cover the big news. And that was a very important thing. When you make your place in a news agency, you become one of the elite photographers who go cover the big news. So your pictures is there and there and there and there.
So, but you were also there during like the Arab Spring. You were also there during the Syrian conflict.
From there, of course, I was in Egypt, I was in Yemen, I was in Syria, Afghanistan in the middle, Pakistan in the middle, China. So I've been all over. So Yemen was one of the tough places. The funny thing about Yemen, I went to Yemen a few weeks before the revolution to do daily life.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly a revolution happened. I remember I'm having a couple of pants, a couple of shirts, a couple of underwears, a couple of socks. I'm going to stay 1 week. And then I stuck 100 days. It was very, very important station in the history of Yemen, but at the same time, it was very dangerous. Yemen. I was stabbed in Yemen, for example,
Wow.
and I survived.
How did that happen?
In Yemen, there is a saying, if the dagger goes out, should not come out more blood. Yemen was a bit confusing because you had anti-government protesters, pro-government protester, dressing the same. You're from the outside, you don't know who from who. And this is where and a pro-government protester, president supporter who came with a dagger tried to stab me, and luckily the dagger flipped in the middle. I just got the small, it did not go deeper. And there was...
Where were you stabbed?
In my chest.
In your chest? Wow.
Yeah. Luckily, no big harm happened, but that could have been the end, for example. In Yemen, talking about Goran is tall and me not that tall. In Yemen, I survived a massacre where two gunmen, pro-government, took a rooftop sniper, started shooting on the protester. Everybody got it in the head. The fact I'm not tall, I survived that day. Yeah. For example, that was a very, very, very dramatic day, traumatic day, where I've seen so many people dying around me. It just, a sound, whew, somebody dies immediately. That was, I think, over 67 people died within minutes in that moment. All over, and that was one of the things. I went to Syria. Syria was also very, very painful. All the injustice that I witnessed, it just stays inside you. Afghanistan, I lost my best friend. So I've been everywhere, and every place you go, you have this beautiful, beautiful memory, and you have that painful memory.
How do you carry that with yourself? How you handle that kind of baggage?
Two ways. The one that you shout out and say, look, at the end of the day, I'm the guy who's taking the picture, not in the front of the camera. And the other part, at the end of the day, when you go lay your head and all these dark memories and ghosts comes out and remind you with all of that. I used to have issues sleeping. I used to have issues talking. But then years after, you learn to talk to the people you love. I opened myself more to therapy to speak about it. And there is a third thing that really helped me is, which we might talk about, the foundation. Where I started.
We're leading up to that point.
I started to make a difference. So it helped me to pass all of that when you see the difference you make.
Yeah, so why I'm asking all of these questions about conflict zones, because I think it's very important to get the point. Two major points. One is the nature of the conflicts. You know, the toll that it, the things you pay to be there. You know, but also at the same time the business of it. Because at the end of the day, news is business also.
Of course.
And once you are a award-winning photographer, the demand is just rising. So you're being called to participate more and more and more and more within different conflicts. So you've been traveling around, documenting conflicts all over, and it took a toll on you.
It's interesting what you said. For us, visual storyteller, it's our life, it's our passion. We're there to document, but for the agencies that we work for, we're a tool for a bigger business. It's a corporate.
Yeah.
But we never see that. Maybe I saw that part after I quit, which we will come to.
Yeah.
But before that, I always saw myself a messenger. You jump into a place to shed light, to open the eyes of the world. To a big part of my family live in the States, in New Jersey. I wanted them to see what's happening in Iraq. I wanted them to see what's happening in Afghanistan. And without these pictures that lands in the paper, we would live in darkness.
Yeah.
And I believed in the power of photography as a force for good. I do believe, up to date. It's what keeps me going. I know that a picture I want to change the world a photo at a time.
Yeah.
Say I'm crazy, but that's my belief. And I know if this picture doesn't change today, it'll change tomorrow. If not tomorrow, it might in 10 years or in 100 years, because the picture lives forever.
Yeah.
We write history with these pictures. For these corporate, we might be just tool for a bigger business plan. But I could never, ever imagine the world without pictures. It will be a very dark place, my friend.
So, but you didn't won one Pulitzer, you won 2 Pulitzers.
Fortunately and unfortunately, because that also takes you into a different level. My second Pulitzer Prize was in Syria, and it was very, very also sad situation. Syria is one of the stations that was really scary. You don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. When you hear the jet passing or a helicopter, if you hear it, you're lucky. It means you survive. But when you don't hear it, it means you're already gone. I went to Syria, but I did not want to cover the bang. I didn't want to cover the fighting. I wanted to cover the courage and resilience of the people who are around the fighting, the people, the real victims of these conflicts. And I was in a village called Atme, and in that village, I remember it was December, it was also cold and raining. Internally displaced people took shelter in that mountain. They put tent and lived there. So I walked. It was very muddy and difficult to reach this place. So you can imagine what the people are facing there. And while I'm in this camp, I saw a young boy, 12-year-old, and he was wrapped fully in bandages. Really, the only thing you see is sad eyes. A minor. I learned my lesson from Iraq. I approached the father to seek permission, and the father shouted at me. He just said, "Why? What this picture will do? Where were the media when we were attacked and we are now displaced?" He lost his faith in all of that, from all the pain he and his family had to pass through. Abdullah, the kid, was injured when a government airstrike hit their home. He was burnt fully. His body was burnt. And then that wasn't it. They had to leave and live in a camp in the middle of nowhere. I approached the father, Ahmed, and I told him, my picture might do nothing to you or to your son. But if I don't take this picture, nobody will learn your son's story. Because, if something happens and we don't capture it, it's like it's never happened. But I told him, there is one thing that I can promise you, I will carry this picture with me wherever I go. In my talks, in my exhibition, and I will make sure that people know what happened to you and to your son. People that I photograph are kind and humble. Sometimes you need to remember what they passed through. He came, he hugged me, he offered me a glass of tea, and he said, "Please feel free." So here, I felt the responsibility. I took this picture a year after I was congratulated that this picture won the second Pulitzer Prize. So that picture became known. So part of my promise is already is there. And from there, wherever I travel, I speak about Abdullah and his father and that part of my life. Unfortunately, I could not stay in touch because of I usually stay in touch with the people that I meet along the way. Because of the war, I did not stay in touch with them. And up to date, I don't know what happened to Abdullah. I hope he's a doctor now. He grew up, he graduated, and I hope they knew that I kept my promises for them.
And this is one of the key moments in the story, because you said once that when the war is on, when the conflict is on, wherever you point a camera, there's something happening, something going on. So you just the story is there, but also you realize it's a business, and then you realize that if you turn on the other side, if you turn to the other side, you'll see something else that it's not in the news, but it's a story that needs to be discovered. You need to put effort in it in order to find it, and this was in conflict with the demand.
You triggered something. You know, the most interesting part in the late millennium, in 2008, 2009, these quiet scenes were not needed or wanted by these agencies. They don't want it. It's a business. It doesn't bring the front page or the inside, that beautiful moment of children enjoying or having fun. But that was my calling. This is what I wanted to do. And I remember clearly a superior of mine sending me an email, Muhammad, this is not what we want. We want you to focus on the news.
Yeah.
Few weeks after...
What did you send them in order for them to reply like that?
I used to do all this daily life, beautiful scene, life goes on.
So you spend your time photographing life during the war.
In the middle of the war, but the life part. But that's not what the paper wanted, you see, and not the business, you see.
Yeah.
And the irony, a few months after my documentation of life and wars was picked by the main magazines and paper, and the same manager congratulated me for a great job I did.
The same one who was, okay.
So that was for me confusing.
Yeah.
Also, it was rewarding because I knew this is very, very important. There is a war here, but there is a life there. And I'm covering the war, but from a different perspective. Life never stops, keeps going. Life goes on even in the middle of the conflict. And that's the thing that I wanted to focus on. Hope, light. I could easily turn my lens there, and I have that part. But there is a lot of photographers covering that, and not many focusing on the courage and resilience of the people caught in the conflict. And in no time, I remember clearly New York Times making a blog called Quiet But Telling Scenes. Mm-hmm. I remember Time magazine naming me Photographer of the Year, Best Photographer of the Year 2013, of my documentation of all of that, the daily life scene, the beauty, all of this. And then, here is the beautiful part. I started to travel around the world with AP just to do daily life. So I went to South Africa to cover a great leader's funeral, Nelson Mandele. That was one of the people that I loved and admired. I went to South Africa to cover his funeral. I remember going to Kuno, and I was just meeting the people, taking daily life impression, not the actual things, the reaction of the people. The same thing I did in Pakistan. I spent 4 years and a half just documenting daily life and challenges Afghan refugees and internally displaced people face. And this is when you learn actually photography.
Yes, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about. So turning camera to the other side, out of the news, and finding the real life stories, as somebody would call it, the real news. All of a sudden, there was nothing happening in the front. So you had to discover a story. In order to discover a story, this is where, as you said, real photography starts. Because as someone who also done a couple of documentaries prior, I know that trust is a major one. You have to gain trust. You have to approach people because they don't see only the camera. They see the person behind the camera. And in order to take like intimate moments in humans' lives, you have to be close to them and they have to open themselves to you. So how this realization came to you and how did you start working on it?
You know, trust is the key. A good photographer is the one who is able to make the invisible visible. You see, daily life photography is things we pass by every day and we don't see anymore because we take it for granted or we don't go deeper in it. You know, when you're in the outside, you only see the outside. So what I started doing is spending a lot of time in the same environment, doing my homework in advance, learning about the culture, the tradition, the language, few words. I spent 4 years and a half in Pakistan, 1 word, Assalamu alaikum, you know, hello, shukriya, few words. And these words open doors, you see. But also I respected the traditions. You're not allowed to take specific pictures. I would never take these pictures. So I became part of that landscape. I blended in.
But that takes time.
It takes time, and it takes a few ethical things. Respect, never invade anyone's privacy, you know, remembering who you are and why you're there. You want to take a quick picture from the outside with your long lens, you can, but that picture will show the outside. To be an insider, you have to act as an insider and you have to respect the people. I spent time, I worked on gaining the people's trust. Trust is not something we buy or we sell, we earn it. And you earn it with respect and respect and respect. I became part of that community. And this is where I saw a world I never seen before. A world full of life and color, energy, but invisible energy that I needed to capture it in my frames. And I needed to come back to the root of photography. Things happening. So this is where I learned photography. I learned to be patient. I learned to see things you don't see normally without being part of that landscape. I learned also how to appreciate things. That's the personal. But in my photography, it became my calling that I want to come closer. I want to come closer. I want to know the story of that person, the story of that child. And one of the most interesting stories that I never speak about, you know, I was approached by Time magazine in 2014. They wanted a story about, to honor Mother's Day, they wanted me to work on a story about Afghan refugee mothers in Pakistan. And as a good soldier, I said, I'll do my best. But what they did not do their homework about, that Afghan mothers are Pashtun, you know, they wear burqa, they're very religious, they don't appear on their cousins. And me, the strangers, is going to go and work on that story? How? I remember spending 3 days looping around my kitchen's table, wondering how I'm going to do this story. And why did I say yes? I called my friend / assistant / driver, Mazhar. I told Mazhar, we have to go to the Afghan community and we have to meet Babaji. Babaji was the head of the community, a beautiful, scary man, big man with massive blue eyes and a red beard. I love this man, but I never wanted to be his enemy. We went to Babaji's home, we knocked his mud home, and I told Mazhar, please translate to him in Pashto, I want to take a picture of your woman. And in the back of my head, I said, Babaji's going to chop my head. And you know, Babaji said something in Pashto that sounded angry. Mazhar translated to me in English, but the words were gibberish in my ears. I didn't know what he said. I told him, what did he say? He said, I told you. He says, go ask the women. It gives me the shiver. We have been seeing you spending 4 years here, and you never, ever invaded anyone's privacy, did something wrong. I went knocking mud home to another. I met these women. They took off their burqa. I heard their stories. There are super women. When we see them in the media, you just see a person wearing a burqa, immediately you stereotype. But these were the mothers the fathers, the pillar of the family. She is the person who holds the whole family, and their stories were incredible. I call them superwomen because they are superwomen. And that story taught me a lot. 6 months after, I'm walking in this camp. One of these women lifted up her burqa. She told me salam, and she put back her burqa. And that was for me the real recognition, trust.
And respect.
And that's how you earn it. You see, so without that part, I would never be where I am today. So here's where the moral compass, the guilt. What did I do to these people? I won through them awards. I became recognized globally. I traveled the world, but I did nothing. I took the picture, I shed light, I spreaded awareness, I shared with the world their stories, but wasn't enough for me, Galeb.
Yeah. So, majority of your work are children.
Yeah.
Children. So what is the fascination of children? What kind of story do they tell? There is something about children faces, something innocent, something true about them that just transcends borders, transcends stereotypes, transcends. People are so much easier to connect with children faces, I'm guessing.
You know, from one side, children are really the ones who are affected the most by these conflicts and these wars. And once upon a time, I was a child. I remember I was surrounded by the news, and there was no space for me to act completely as a child. And also, child could not fake it.
Yeah.
Child could not, through their eyes, the eyes never lie. It's the door to the soul, and I always focused on child's eyes to tell their own story.
Yeah.
Physical scars heal. When you're injured, it heals after a while, but mental scars could take forever to heal. And most of these children were scarred, traumatized from wars and conflict, and you could not see that easily. And their eyes used to reflect that. So for me, it was very important to bring that trauma through their eyes into the world through a face. That pictures, that portrait, it takes a lot to capture this emotion. For me, a picture without emotion is like a body without a soul.
Yeah.
And I always needed to get this real emotions. But you don't get this emotion by jumping in and just taking the pictures. I spent years around these children. I've seen them babies and I've seen them growing up.
Yeah,
and it was important. I wanted to share with the world that let's stop just using numbers and status. Let's stop. Let's start remembering. I like to be remembered by my name, by my story, by my age, by my hobby. And I wanted these children to be remembered like that. So that's why I portray children, and I portray them as adults, because a child is a young adult. A child can make a decision. A child can tell you yes, can tell you no. I can't fake it. And it's for them, it was a game. You have no idea how sometimes I used to have seconds to take this portrait till they run and come back. So I brought joy to them, but they brought joy to me.
Yeah.
They got the child out of me. And to deal with the children, you have to go back to the root.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that impressed me about children, their ability to resist, the resilience of children, finding fun and joy from nothing. I remember every time I go back home, I see my nephews and nieces playing with technology, and they were unhappy. And then I used to see these kids in Pakistan, Afghanistan, playing with a balloon or stones or skipping rope, and their laugh was all over the atmosphere. And that used to piss me. I used to say, some kids in the other part of the world, they have nothing and they're happier. The simplicity, the ability to find joy from nothing.
Yeah, I remember one of your photos that I found very interesting was a child suspended midair, skipping rope.
Yeah. This is, her name is Zubaida. I took this picture in a camp in Jordan. Zubaida now is married and she's expecting to be a mother. So life goes on. And that for me was ray of light, the hope. Kids don't see where they are. They live their moment. And I wanted to capture that moment and put it there for people to look at it and forget the background and just look at the actual thing happening. If you just change the background, it could be in Belgrade.
Yeah.
It could be in New York. We all played with balloons, right?
Yeah.
We all skipped rope. I did.
Yes, of course.
We all found ways. So these pictures is what unite us.
It's
equalize.
universal. Yeah.
It makes us all the same. That's why I focus on these moments in time, just as a reminder, we are all the same.
Yeah. There's also, before that, but let's jump into it right now. So there's also one remarkable story, because this story has two parts. One is the story itself, the length, the time, the life of it. And the other part is doing this, which is frowned upon within, journalists, newsrooms, people where you involve yourself with the objects you're photographing. So, for example, in order to come close to these people, in order to get these true vulnerable moments, you have to, connect with them. You have to invest yourself. You have to attach yourself to the story, which is not recommended in business.
Of course, you cross a line here.
There's like an invisible line
very
that nobody
thin.
crosses.
You cannot cross it. That thin line is the reason I quit my job.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to be just an outsider, or to be able to tell the story in depth. You have to enter and spend time and handle it in depth. Actually, and you will not be even able to tell the whole story. You show a window of it. And for me, I wanted to spend time. I wanted to get to know the people. I wanted to help. I wanted, one of the things that triggered me, I was working on a story about brick factories in Pakistan. And I remember one day I saw a mother working in the brick factory, and her child was sleeping on the ground. And the child did not look normal. And I asked her, what's going on? She said, my child has temperature. I said, take her to a hospital. She said, I cannot leave work. I said, the child might die. She said, I cannot leave work. And this is where I had to think, break the rule.
Yeah.
Get that child to safety.
So what did you do?
I helped them. I helped them to get the child to the hospital, and I helped the mom financially. I don't like to add that, but I helped them. I helped her to get that situation. But that's a simple situation. I'm not allowed to do that. As a photojournalist, there is a line you cannot cross. You're not there as an aid worker or as an NGO. You're there as a photographer. You're there just to take that picture and leave. For me, it wasn't enough. I wanted to help. I wanted to be human. You know what I mean? It's the least you do. You see a child dying, and a little bit of money could save her life. But the mom is afraid. If the mom leaves the job, she will be fired. And then she cannot pay her debts to the owner of the brick factory. And they will all lose their job, and the whole system will collapse in her life but how simple things we can do, we could save a life. And that you cannot cross it. You understand how that thin line that reminds you of your humanity, or reminds you, I'm there just to take the picture. And I've seen colleagues who makes an incredible job in helping, and I've seen others who never crossed the line. I wanted to be the one who crossed the line. I wanted to help. I wanted to make a difference, because at the end of the day, we're not different. We're the same. I'm a human, and you're a human.
Yep. And so how did you, as one headline says, end up dumping the AP?
It's incredible. That was the Italian newspaper. After spending 15 years in the AP and traveling the world, I decided completely to commit myself to helping the people that I photograph.
Walk us through the process of, quitting and breaking that connection.
I was what they used to call a star in AP. I reached a good level. I was a regional manager. I was the chief photographer of the Middle East, Pakistan, and Afghanistan for the Associated Press. And I was on top of every major news. I was traveling all over. I used to go wherever I want, my own budget. I managed people who I told them, you manage yourself. I'm just, at the end of the day, another photographer. But there was a line. I wanted to cross the line. I wanted to spend more time in the same environments. I wanted to help people. And in the middle, I was in Afghanistan and I lost my best friend. I lost everything I believed in at that moment here. So I unplugged. I went back. I looked at my life from a different perspective. And this is when I said, it's not what I want to do. I'm going to go back to where I started. I mentioned this to you earlier. I started from minus. Now I will go to zero. I'm already upgraded. I quit my job. I remember my superior vice president called me and he said, Muhammad, we have a new position. I said, I quit. And he said, what did I hear? I said, I quit. He told me, I feel like kicking a cat. Literally, he said like that. And that was a big surprise for everybody because I never showed I'm unhappy. And I was always carrying my camera and taking pictures, never get involved in any inner things. And I just switched my life. It's like a switch. I started going out and about, working in communities. And this is when I also founded Everyday Refugees Foundation. So I committed my photography, my connections, my relations with the people to come back and help.
Before we jump into Everyday Refugees, just one more thing about, you said a couple of times, you mentioned losing your best friend, which was also one of the breaking points in this story. So tell us more about Anya and that moment.
Anya Niederinghaus. Anya is an incredible person and photographer who I met in 2003 in Baghdad when I was a kid. And she embraced me. I felt home in the darkest places with Anya. And we remained friends. We traveled around. We worked on assignment. And in April 4, 2014, Anya was shot and killed in Khost in Afghanistan while covering the Afghan national election. It was a very, very, very shocking news that we lost Anya. But everybody close to Anya knew that Anya would have done it again and again and again. She fell in love with Afghanistan and the importance of documenting the Afghan story and the voices of the Afghan people. And that was, for me, one of the toughest stations in my life. I was in Kabul, especially to be with Anya. I had to identify Anya. I had to get her stuff back to the family. I had to bury her. And then I realized that I forgot taking care of myself. And that was a big collapse for me. And that the period of time that I ended in a dark place helped me to come back with a clarity more of what I want to do next in my life as a human and as a visual storyteller. I don't want to just work for a big corporate. I want to be myself and do what I love to do.
And that's one of all of those things led to this point in both of your lives. You're here with your wife. It's called Everyday Refugees. So tell me more about it.
It's the everyday life of everybody, but this is the everyday life of people who were forced to leave their homes and hopes and families and memories. Everyday Refugees Foundation started from the technology revolution. In 14 and 15, we were introduced to social media, and I was the first to say, hell no, I will not have an Instagram. I'm a classic photographer. Months after, I had to have Instagram. Technology is like...
And now you have more than 1 million followers.
It's crazy how that works. Technology is like a train that moves so fast, and you have to be side by side with it, or you spend your life trying to catch up. So I remember I created an account called Everyday Refugees. And I put few pictures from the field where I am, and people just received it immediately. People reacted. This is really happening? Where is this? Where is that? How can we help this child? How can we help that woman? And if And if that doesn't shake you and move you, then it's not normal. So I jumped to Amsterdam, where I live, and I started thinking it's gonna be a quick, easy procedure to do a foundation. And then I hit the wall of bureaucracy and reality. It took me a year to get the integrity test, to get the paper done. I spent all my saving to put things together to come up with Everyday Refugees Foundation, 2 people show. And then we started getting emails, messages, calls from people. We want to help. How can we help? And I said, this is really happening. Because at the beginning, it was just to spread awareness. I wanted to let people understand stories. And then we can actually bring warm shoes and warm clothes to kids in Serbia. We can actually bring children clothes in a camp in Greece. We can actually build 2 rooms for the children that I met in Pakistan to learn. You see, so it started baby idea, and it growed. When you're passionate, when you believe in what you do, you're unstoppable. But you need to remember that it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And that was the foundation, the launch of the foundation in 2015. I remember I was standing in Lesbos, and people passing me by and asking themselves in Arabic, are we in Germany?
Yeah.
And this is where I said, I will go and tell the people, no, you're not in Germany. You're still in an island in Greece. You're way far from Germany. So this is where I realized how language is important. You can actually help by just explaining to people. And I heard Urdu, I'm familiar with the language. I heard Pashto, I'm familiar. So all my life traveling suddenly is paying back. I'm in the middle, standing in a big story happening, and I could really help. Simple kindness, simple things. And that was another trigger. Why not do more than just being a messenger or simple kindness, as I always say? Why not actually bring an actual help to these people, help them? If it's through education, if it's through project of empowerment, why not give a master class to refugee children who would love to be photographer so they can tell their stories? So I started to find ways, how can I make a difference? How can I help? But that would have been impossible as a staffer for a company. I had to be independent and the boss of myself. And the foundation really grew up because we, I never had high expectation. I always say help one better than helping none. If you can help one person, better than say, I cannot help everybody, so you help nobody. And now with the foundation, I can tell you we're standing tall. We have projects in multi-countries. We made a difference. And you know what? These people that you help, they actually help you to be a better person, to feel better about your life, and to appreciate everything you have.
So tell us more about the way you're helping and the way you tell stories and the way you document those stories, because it seems to me that you have actually built, I don't want to call it business or a job, like a calling of crossing that particular line that nobody wanted you to cross and making the best out of it. But that also means that crossing that line, getting in touch, spending time, getting involved, getting emotionally connected, it means you're intertwined with these people's lives. You're becoming part of their lives and they're becoming part of your life. So, but you can't help everyone. So, so I'm guessing you're torn in between people you can help and between you cannot help. And people are proud. Many of them maybe that don't want to be helped. You have to find a way how to help them because they're in need. So how do you give us an example of the stories you go through? So how do you manage all of this? Because it seems like a very delicate thing to do.
Look, I'm still a photojournalist.
Yeah.
I'm still travel to document the story. So what I do, I work on my story, and after my story is published, we go and help with the foundation. And most of the time, people even don't realize that I am attached to the foundation. The people that don't know me. This way, I keep it also professional. However, when I go and work on a story, I spend a lot of time with these people, and they get attached to me, and I get attached to them. So for me, the story never ends. It's not just a story to take pictures of and it ends. It's a long-term relationship and commitment. My relationship with Zahra and her family, the young Syrian girl, started in 2015 up to date.
Yeah.
Zahra is a grown-up. She was 4.5.
Yeah,
now she's 16.
Yeah, but tell us the story of Zahra from the beginning, because it's one of the most fascinating stories. And the picture of Zahra is...
Zahra's story is the biggest frustration and the biggest recognition of my life. It's incredible how I traveled to Jordan in 2015 to cover the Syrian refugees settling down in cities and in camps. And I went to one of the camp in August 2015, and I saw that little girl. She was leaning on her family's tent, and she looked so sad, so quiet, and I could see that war left its scars on her face. I went to her father. I asked her permission.
She was how old she was?
She was barely 5, shortly before 5, almost 5. It was tiny, beautiful, quiet. She hardly speaks. She hardly smiles.
Yeah, and she has big eyes.
Her eyes speaks volume. They spoke to me. I loved this girl before meeting her. I went to her father. I asked him if I can photograph your daughter. She's a minor. I photographed Zahra. I took that picture, but I never imagined what's going to happen after that. That portrait was published everywhere, Galip, everywhere. It was in every magazine, in every newspaper. It started to be painted on walls around the world. The face of the lost childhood, it went far and beyond. A year after, congratulations, Mr. Muheisen, your picture, not Zahra's picture, your picture won UNICEF Picture of the Year. I say Zahra's picture. I always... And I received that award in Berlin. It was a beautiful ceremony. I received it by the First Lady of Germany, Mrs. Elke Budenbender. It was a beautiful moment. And I thought, this is it. Zahra's life is going to change. She's no longer going to be in a camp. She's going to be moved to a home. Of course, the whole world knows about her. Unfortunately, nothing changed in her life. They're still in the same tent, in the same camp. Life is harsh. Her elder brother has to work. The father has to work. The mom has to work. Zahra can't go to school. It's not their priority. They don't have money. They can't afford sending her to school. And that was my biggest frustration. So I made it my mission, Galip, my commitment, my responsibility to keep telling Zahra stories. I kept documenting her story from 2015 up to date. I visit Zahra at least twice a year, and I tell her story. I saw her growing in the front of my eyes and my lens, but I see her growing, but in the same place. The tent is the same. So I can put for you 10 pictures. You see the same surrounding, but the child is growing. And the great thing about having a foundation, this is the first time I say this publicly, we managed with the foundation to move the family in a home in Amman with the camp. And Zahra I never seen her smiling. I never seen her really she always in a corner. It's traumatized. Traumatized child immediately. And the moment she moved to a home, you can see colors. She's in the right environment. But to go back a few years, there was an incredible story happening in the middle that restored my belief in humanity. I was coming back from Serbia in 2017 to my home in Amsterdam, and the first thing we do is I go through my mail, and I pick up the mail, and there was a smaller letter with the child handwriting. It says for Zahra. I'm like, this is for real. I jumped upstairs. I opened the letter. It's from a young German girl called Mariella. It gives me always goosebumps when I read this story. It says, Dear Zahra, my name is Mariella. I saw your picture in the local newspaper. Why you are sad? If we become friends, would you be happy? You know, I had, for a moment, I didn't believe it. And I said, this is happening. I waited the first opportunity. I jumped to Jordan. I gave that letter to Zahra. Zahra could not read or write, but her sister Fatma could. So Zahra was happy. I saw a smile.
Yeah.
So Fatma wrote, we spent hours. Zahra, what do you want to tell Mariella? We spent hours trying to write this letter. So I take it to Mariella. They wrote a letter, and Zahra asked me, take for her a stuffed camel. You know, they live in a desert camp. So for her, camel is and Muhammad, go find the stuffed camel. I found the stuffed camel. I flew from Jordan to Germany. I gave it to Mariella. Mariella wrote another letter, and she made a small bag with cookies. I remember very well. Cookies, pictures, a piece of chocolate. It was incredible, the child. And her mom is amazing. So we are adults now in the hands of children. I carried this package and I flew to Jordan. I forget I'm a photographer. Now I became really the postman. Zahra sat down, and this time she got more creative. You know, I want you to get her this thing and that thing. And she wrote, and pictures. Yeah. And I saw that she started to have colors, ideas. She asked me. Before, she never talked. She never spoke. So there was letters of hope. Up to date, I go here, and I hand here and there. And that picture, that story was like, for me, that's why I believe in photography. It connects words, and there is a hope out there. And these two girls now, they're taller than me, both of them. One of the incredible things that used to happen when I visit Zahra, so I used to call the family and say, because they live on outside the roads, muddy roads, it's not easy to reach. I say, my ETA, I'm estimated to arrive in around 30 minutes. And we park the car, and there's like 500-meter muddy road. So I walk, and then you see Zahra running from far away. Santa Claus is in town. So I have her letters, and I have her gift. And she comes and jumps on me. Year after year, I could not carry her. You could see me, Zahra jumping, and I can't. She grew up, Yeah. So now I have a joke with her when I go, Before she was tiny, and now she's a bit taller, almost there, and I say, Zahra, I cannot carry you anymore. She told me, she's a teenager. Like, no, I'm still light. So that was beautiful. I saw Zahra recently.
When did you see the last time?
3 months ago. I would love after to show you this small video,
Please,
I built of 10 years of my relationship with Zahra. You can see how the moment Zahra moved from a camp, from a tent to a home, immediately her psychology changed. The moment Zahra felt connected to somebody from the outside world, outside her environment, her psychology changed. Her personality changed. So can you imagine if we put everybody displaced in a proper home, if we open them to the public, to the world, you will never have an issue. And that story for me is just a simple example of two little girls, same age, same dreams, same hopes. Both of them ask me for hair ties with Mickey Mouse, but different environment. If you just provide them all with the same environment, you could not know who from who, the German from the Syrian.
Yes, that's a beautiful story, truly beautiful story. Tell us the story of, you told me about a boy when we met at the exhibition, about a boy who you took picture of and you gave him a picture.
Oh, Zawar. That was also for me something up to date, I say. So throughout the year that I lived in Pakistan, I woke up early, and I believe you are an early riser. I need to wake up. I wake up before the sunrise. I get ready because it's quiet, and the light, etc. So throughout, I stood in the roadside and near the capital to have a daily life picture. There was a nice background, mud homes, a horse, and I needed the subject. a good element, if we're talking about photography, good light, good background, and an interesting subject. I needed that subject. I sat on half a knee for hours, waiting for an interesting subject. There was a little boy. That boy, his mission was to ruin every picture I take. He kept running in front of my camera, from the left to the right, from the right to the left, waving, jumping. Once in a while, come and get curious with his muddy finger and put it on my lens. Forget it, take it, wipe it. Hours. I said, to be a good photographer, you have to be patient. And we are impatient as photographers.
Yeah.
I did not give up. A wooden cart comes by a vendor. He sells bubbles. He released these bubbles in the air to attract children from the camp to come. And then my background was full of bubbles. And I was ready. I'm using a lens 24 millimeter 1.4. It means sharp. It's very soft point. And then out of the blue, this kid comes from nowhere, open his arm trying to chase the bubbles. I was there. I had that moment. And I couldn't believe that kid who made my life so difficult is the hero right now. It was a beautiful moment. It's a very peaceful moment, beautiful scene, hopeful.
Yeah.
A few months after, I printed this picture on an A4, and I wanted to find him. I wanted to know his story, because he ran away after I took the picture. I went out and about from area to area. We found him. His name is Zawar Khan, 10 years old. He lives in a mud home. And I had this picture. And all the community comes around to see Zawar. Why the photographer is coming. I gave him his picture. He looked at, literally, Khalib, he could hold it like this. He started looking at this. I saw pride in his eyes because everybody's giving him attention. And I saw a little bit of sadness, emotion. So I asked around what's wrong. He said, it's the first time he sees himself in a picture. And I said, wow, how simple kindness could make a lot of difference in someone's life. So imagine, it cost me nothing to print this picture and give it to the boy. But for him, it was a recognition. It's like his Pulitzer.
Yeah.
He has his own picture in the paper. Why he never seen himself in a picture? Because there is a priority. These people live in a very difficult situation. They wake up in the morning to work. They come in the evening to rest, to wake up in the morning to work. No TVs, no radio. It's a very tough life. So that was for me actually one of the key changes in my life. I have to do something. I have to do more. If printing this picture could make this kid believe in me as a person and as a photographer, I'm sure this kid now, whenever he meets a photographer, he's happy. So I managed also to explain to this kid, as a photographer, I'm a human. And it helped me to come up with the foundation after this single story.
And there's a nice piece of documentary that National Geographic made called The Photographers, or just Photographers. Photography. And they depict you, both of you actually, in refugee camp in Romania.
I was in Romania, yeah.
In Romania with Ukrainian refugees.
That's correct.
And you can have a sneak peek at what it's like to actually be with the families and then communicating with those children and seeing something that is common in your pictures, like seeing life poking through those difficult circumstances. So you see this gray, concrete, foreign areas for them, but kids are kids.
Kids are kids,
And there was also one naughty boy,
Kola. Yeah. I'm gonna come to Kola.
Okay.
So to be able to work, you have to spend time. I remember I spent a few weeks. So it's a shelter in Romania for Ukrainian refugees, and in other shelters there are others also, other nationality. And here it's not only a language barrier, but a culture barrier. It's completely different. So I had to be able to come close to the people. I had to spend time. I remember spending weeks without taking pictures, just walking around. I can see people are curious. Who's that guy? Who's that stranger? Spending time, getting to see. You see children peeking on me from far away and then coming a little bit closer. Take your time. I'm a very patient person, and I learned throughout the year how to spend time in such an environment. Also, not to invade their privacy and not to just be from the outside.
Yeah.
So the documentary photographer focused on that part. So I got closer to these kids. And with my foundation, we equipped 2 rooms in these shelters. So we had a project going. Kola, his main specialty at the beginning was biting me. You know, he comes and bites me, and it's on camera. And I remember once the mom asked him, so what did you do today? He said, I did bite the photographer. Unbelievable. So I spent time, and at the end, these kids were crying. And that's what broke my heart. You know, they ask you, and now you're going, you're going to leave us? I say, I have to go home. I have to continue in my life. But here I learned, no matter where you're from, or your language, or your culture, or tradition, we're the same at the end of the day. And there is always ways to find a way to communicate, but the main language is respect. That was the main key to get access and entry and spend time. And, you know, in that shelter, we came up with an idea, we called it Rooms for Hope. So we found a completely damaged room, and we said, we're going to equip this room as a small space for the children to enjoy. So we painted it with beautiful colors. We put TV, we brought games, we put carpets. We spent a lot to make this good, and the kids destroyed it in 2 days. But you know what? We gave them the best 2 days of their lives. You see, so this is one of the things that I'm proud of. I see firsthand the transformation from no trust into a full trust, from a kid avoiding me a mile away to a kid coming, and I say, let me go, I have to go home.
Yeah.
You see, and that only happens when you are honest, when you are respectful, when you believe in what you do. I could never do what I do if I don't believe in photography or the power of photography, or believe how we are all the same. You know, you have to level up. You have to be honest. You have to be respectful. These are the key for good photography. To be a good photographer, you have to be a good human first. A small reminder, never forget that. You think I care about awards and Pulitzers? I never. These were just access. The real award for me, when I go put my head on my pillow and I smile, remembering that kid who bit me at the beginning, and at the end, that kid was crying.
Yeah.
Don't go. And that's what keeps me going, Galip.
Yeah, and you told me also a story. You actually just gave me a gist of it. The story you did, I think it was in Amsterdam, in Holland, in the
prisons.
In the prisons, yes,
Wow.
yes, where you get the exclusive access that nobody had.
That was one of the stories that if you don't try, you never get. You see,
Okay.
I was in Greece in 2015, and there was something spreading that in the Netherlands, refugees are put in prisons. You know, the concept was wrong at the beginning. They put in former prisons. Crime rate in the Netherlands is 0. So the empty prisons are used to shelter refugees. I'm like, this is really happening. Let's find out. I started nagging. I got an answer. You're welcome to come. We have 15 minutes to half an hour for you. I went without my camera, you know, and they were like, are you stupid or arrogant or what? You have a rare access. I said, I need time. If I want to do this, I need time. Luckily, I had somebody on the board of the government who's familiar with me. And they said, let's give him access, just in one condition.
Yeah, that's where Pulitzers come in hand.
You see? Access.
Access, yes.
We give him access. He need to get consent and permission from everybody he's photographed. I said, this is it. That's naturally what I do. I spent the whole year. From 15 minutes, I spent the whole year spending time, getting to know the people. But this was one of the most intimate situations where you have to be careful. People are tired, people are traumatized, and people need their privacy. So I had to be very, very sensitive. I had to feel all the time, how would I feel if I am in the other side of the camera?
Yeah.
You had to understand. It's not easy. One of the interesting stories, there was an older woman who I felt her always angry from me in the side, and I always avoided her. And at the end, I told her, you want me to take your picture, right? She said, yes, I'm the only one you did not take her picture. But that came after a while. So you have always to try to understand this, what people would think of you. You know, who he is, why he's carrying a camera, and spending time and leveling up with people, sitting down with them, hearing their stories. Even if they tell you their stories in any language, just give them an ear. You know, people just want to be heard, want to be listened to, want to be comforted. And that's enough. That's the beginning. And that, I remember that story was published. It made a huge echo. It's called Cells for Refugees. And the funny thing, I remember I got a complaint from the COA, which is the government branch, that because of you, we had thousands of requests all over the world to come and cover that story, and we gave nobody access. So a year after, there was another prison that became a shelter, and I also went there and I worked on the story and continued. And now these prisons are shut down. One of them became a hotel.
Prison hotel.
So I have a piece of history in that part. But when I used to ask the people, how do you feel if you're in prison? They say, I don't feel in prison. I feel in a home, safer home. So when you're in the move, when you lose everything and you just carry your children and you do all these dangerous journeys, it doesn't matter where you end. What matters is the people you love are safe around you. For me, the heroes were these mothers that I used to see carrying their children unstoppable, changing the diaper on the railway, carrying them for kilometers and kilometers. And then when they are in that room, no matter what is it, a tent, a barracks, a prison cell, I could see her smile the moment she's holding her child. And that, what really made me go on and believe in what I do. The resilience, the superheroes are the mothers for me.
Yes, you came a long way from documenting conflict, to documenting actual, real human stories. But unfortunately, conflicts around the world are on the rise. Refugees, they're more than ever. The conflicts persist, new conflicts emerge, and now we have climate refugees also.
Of course,
you know, it's a big topic, and it's gonna be only bigger over time. So, how do you see position of your foundation, Everyday Refugees, now, today? How do you see it in the future? Maybe a network of other refugee foundations that can, come together to bring something. I have no idea what the world is going to look like in a year from now, let alone like 10 years from now, because it doesn't seem promising. But stories like yours are really, giving us a little help, a little hope.
We've been speaking for an hour,
yeah.
So you know me for now. I'm a hopeful. I'm a very, very hopeful person, I believe in there is light, there is colors, there is hope tomorrow, but we need to continue believing in that. And for the foundation, for me, the foundation, as long as I'm breathing, I will keep using the foundation to help who needs. If it's partnering with other, we partnered in the past with IOM, for example. We partnered with the Commissariat in Serbia. We partnered in other organizations all over the world, because it's important sometimes to share, experience and to share the help with others. But as long as we can, we should do. And as long as I can, I always say, I dream tomorrow to wake up into a peaceful world that there is nothing happening in it.
Yeah.
And that we can finally learn from the past. We should learn from the past. We keep repeating the mistakes of the past, and that's what saddens me. War is the darkest place to be in the middle of.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Muhammed. Thank you both. Thank both of you for everything that you're doing, and keep doing and keep telling stories, because it's really inspiring. And I know it seems otherwise, but it actually brings changes. But one day at a time, one photography at a time, as you said.
We're patient. We're hopeful. It's a marathon. We keep going. Thank you. Hvala. Shukran.
Shukran.
Thank you.
To je to. Ćao.